Hey everyone, my name is Kane King, and on this channel I tell interesting or scary Reddit stories that I've found online. This is a safe space to enjoy stories of the unknown. If you have any stories you'd like to share with me of your own, you can contact me on Instagram or even post on the channel's subreddit page, with a link down below in the description. But for now, enjoy the video. A few years ago, my husband and I were staying in Brighton for a few nights, a short getaway before I started a new job. I'll have to ask him the name of the hotel, as I cannot remember, but I do remember it was an older building. The inside was pretty modern, and the whole place was like a maze, up and down stairs, through doorways, around corners, through archways, etc. Our room was set up like any standard hotel room, bathroom situated immediately to the right as you enter the room, bed against one wall and a dresser with a TV on it on the opposite. It seemed like a relatively nice room for the price though, at least by my low standards. We were out the whole first day after we arrived, got back to the room around 10:30ish and started to sit down for the evening. I sat on the bed for a while scrolling on my phone while my husband was laying on his side of the bed with all the pillows stacked up behind him. So he was nearly sitting up facing the TV/dresser setup. At this point, the whole room was being lit up by one lamp my husband had turned on his side of the bed. I stood up next to my side of the bed and started to change into my pajamas. As I had my nightshirt pulled over my head, arms not even through the armholes yet, something made me pause. Suspended over the dresser in the empty space about a foot from the TV was a brilliantly bright white/blue ball of light, roughly the size of a football. My mind was racing to make sense of what I was seeing. At first I thought it must be some weird reflection in the picture on the wall behind it, but that just didn't make sense. The object was nearly 3D, not a reflection. My second thought was that I had an aneurysm and was dying. It happens to 20-something-year-olds all the time. Within milliseconds, the light began to expand. It just didn't light up the room. It literally grew in size until it completely engulfed the whole room. My third thought was that this must be some type of nuclear warfare, something radioactive, but it didn't make sense that it was completely silent. It didn't put off any heat, it didn't hurt. In an instant, it was gone. The room was lit by one lamp, now seemed dark. For a few seconds afterward, I couldn't see anything as my eyes were adjusting back to the one lamp's worth of light in the room. In my head, that was a physiological sign that I hadn't imagined this light. With my shirt still halfway on, I looked over at my very skeptical husband who said, "What the hell was that?" It's cliche to say, but I am literally shaking right now typing this out. At first I thought it might have been a camera flash, but that just didn't make sense. I've never seen a camera flash so brilliant. And that's not exactly the stealthy camera you'd want to hide in a hotel room to spy on guests. We thought it might have been something electrical, but the TV worked fine. None of the light bulbs blew, our phones that were all plugged in during this time were fine. It just didn't make sense. The one thing I couldn't and still can't get over is how the light was literally floating in the middle of the air and the fact that it was such a perfect circle. Anyway, I've told the story to a few people, but no one really knows what to say other than commenting on how odd the story is. Anyone experienced a big glowing ball of light in their hotel room before? If so, please let me know. I know that this sounds like the kind of advice to anyone left alone in the house at night, but this is different. It started a few weeks ago. I was in bed. It had just turned 1 o'clock in the morning. I was scrolling on my phone while my wife Steph was asleep. I suddenly had a notification pop up at the time on my phone. Anyone with a video doorbell will be accustomed to this, motion detected. I normally ignore it as it was either a car coming down the road or a person stumbling back home after a night out. Then the doorbell chimed. The notification followed. There was a person at your front door. I opened the app. There sure enough was a young woman standing, clinging onto my doorframe. I answered, "Hello, can I help you?" She came back immediately. "Please let me in. Something is chasing me." I told her to stay where she was, and I would call the police. I heard her again. "Please let me in. He's going to hurt me. Please hurry." At this point, my wife woke up. She asked me what I was doing. As I put some clothes on, ready to go downstairs, I said there was a woman at our door begging to come in, as someone was chasing her. I was about to dial for the police when Steph opened the app. She said, "Babe, no one is there." We looked back on the motion history. Both notifications were logged. Opened the first one, nothing but our front porch. I proceeded to the other notification where someone had pressed the doorbell. There was my front porch, shrouded in darkness, but this time we could hear only my voice. Of course, there was no response to my questions. I thought to myself, was I going crazy? My wife said it was late. I must have been half asleep and my mind was playing tricks on me. Even if that was right, it still didn't explain why we got notifications. The next night, we both sat binging a Netflix show in our living room. We must have lost track of time, as it was nearly 1 in the morning. I went to check the back door was locked when my phone buzzed. I asked Steph whether she had the same. She had. I opened the app just as it notified me that someone had pressed the bell. We both quickly opened the live view. Stood at our door was a child. The young boy must have been no older than 8. The camera was in night vision, which is black and white. The boy's face glowed, eyes piercing through my screen. I once again answered, "Hello, can I help?" The kid looked up at the camera. "Hi, my daddy broke down just up the road, and his phone is dead. Can you please let me in? I need to use your phone." Me and Steph looked at each other. She shook her head at me. I replied to him, "I can call someone out for you, or maybe the police can help." The boy then seemed to turn. His voice now had anger to it. "Open the door, I need help. Are you really going to let me stay out here all alone?" His story had changed. I went back after swallowing my own fear. "Stay there. I'll get some help." This time I called the police. They came around 20 minutes later. By this point, no one was around. We had seen the boy walk off around the corner 5 minutes after I got off the phone. The officers checked our road and the surrounding area. They found no people, not even the odd car driving around. We both tried to show them the app, but obviously there was nothing there. The 2 officers were understanding and seemed to believe us. They gave us the department's direct number and told us to call them if anything happens again. We went back to bed that night, scared and confused. We didn't understand what or why this was happening to us. The next day we decided to get an early night. We made sure everything was locked up and the house was secure. We both fell asleep early. I was awoken up at just gone 1 a.m. to the sound of 2 sets of buzzing from my phone. I ignored these. I just rolled over and went back to sleep. When I looked at my phone in the morning, I opened up the doorbell app. The video playback showed nothing, but I could hear scratching for about 2 to 3 seconds after the apparent press of the doorbell. I went downstairs and checked the door. 3 sets of 4 deep scratches went down my front door. The anxiety hit me like a tidal wave going throughout my body. I now feared the night ahead of us. 2 nights ago, we had decided to stay up. We were going to put an end to this. We were on the edge in our own home, and it just wasn't right. The minutes drew closer to that damned time, 1 a.m. Then, right on schedule, the notification started. I opened the app. Now stood there one of the policemen. He was one of the officers that was with us the other night. I thought it was strange. It caught me off guard. Steph said that she would look out the window upstairs. We had both said earlier that one of us would look out the window to confirm if there was someone nearly there. I answered the door. "Hello, officer, can I help you?" He looked into the camera. "We have an update on the problem you have been having. Can you please open the door?" I felt a sense of confliction come over me. This didn't feel right. I'd watched enough police programs and dramas to know they usually have to report to places with another officer. The lack of any police cars also unnerved me. "Sorry, officer, I'm sure you can understand the reluctancy to open the door due to the situation." He snapped back. "It's fine. I'm an officer of the law and instructing you to please open up. I need to come in and update you." Now I knew something was wrong. His whole demeanor was now completely different to when we spoke 2 nights ago. I watched as his head looked upwards. I heard my wife scream the words, "His eyes! What the fuck?" I rushed up the stairs, my feet slipping as I ran. I saw Steph, but she looked petrified. She stared at me blankly and said, "You need to let him in. He will help us." I stood back, struggling to catch my breath. "We can't. You know we can't. What did you see? What's wrong with his eyes?" She tilted his head at me. Her eyes began to roll upwards. "Let him in. Let him in." Her tone started to change. It was turning into a gravelly, rasping voice. Her face was now full of anger as she screamed at me, "Let him in! Now!" I grabbed her and shook her while shouting, "Steph, listen to me, snap out of it." She looked back at me, dazed and confused. She said wearily, with tears in her eyes, "I want to go to bed." I said, "Only if you're okay." She said she was fine and didn't want to know what happened. I checked the video feed once more, no one was there. It took me a few hours to fall asleep, worrying about what happened to Steph. When I woke up the next morning, Steph was gone. Her phone and jewelry was left on the bedside cabinet. I went downstairs and searched for her, but nothing. She wasn't in the house. I called the police department on the number I was given. I spoke to the partner of the policeman that was at my door. I told him everything that happened, and that my wife had gone missing. They told me the officer that was stood at my door 8 hours earlier was on leave. He flew out on holiday yesterday morning. It couldn't have been him. In the hours ahead, a search team was assembled, and I joined them in searching the local area. There was no sign of her. It's now 11 p.m. I'm sitting alone in my living room, my head now full of fear and radiating pain. I just want my Steph home. I just want normality back. Here it comes, 12:59. 3, 2, 1 a.m. The notifications come through. I opened the app. Steph was at my front door. I was half expecting it. I said, "Where were you, honey?" She looked into the camera. "I was taken, but I escaped and I am here now. Let me in and I will tell you all about it." I took a deep sigh. "Okay. I will be there in a minute, babe. What can I do? She's my wife. I have nothing without her." I read all of this throughout this evening, hoping for some sort of closure, maybe even a happy ending to this horrible experience. I guess now it will just be a piece of evidence on what happened to us both. I need to go answer the door now. My wife is home. As a kid, I had a lot of paranormal experiences, so today I want to share another one. My grandparents lived on the little hill next to a big forest. It was like a mini village up there, with only a few houses. We had a very big garden in which I would play all the time. Someday a little boy showed up outside our garden fence, and I was so excited to see him because I was the only 6 to 7-year-old kid in the neighborhood, and he looked like my age, so I went up to him and greeted him. He was very polite and we agreed on playing together. After this day, we almost played every time when I was at my grandparents' house, either in our garden or in the front of the forest. He never wanted to go inside our house, which I was a little bummed out about. I wanted to show him all of my toys we had been talking about, but oh well. We always had so much fun together outdoors, so I stopped asking him to come inside. After a few months, my grandmother was invited to a neighbor's house for some coffee and cake. I was in as soon as I heard the word cake. So we went over, and as I walked into the house, I saw a picture of my now friend that I had been playing with for months. So I said out loud, "Hey, that's the boy I've been playing with." Our neighbor looked at me dumbfounded and said, "Darling, that's not possible. That is my son that passed away 20 years ago." We never really talked about him again, and I can't quite remember when, but like he showed up someday, he vanished. We also had to move away from that house, so that might have been the time he didn't show up anymore. So this is a story from 2 or 3 years ago. One night on my way home from work, and to get to home I take some back roads as shortcuts. But on this particular night it was snowing and the roads were a little icy, so I was driving slower than I normally do. On this route I normally take day in and day out. It has a long stretch of road that has hills and can be rough sometimes, and has no house or hunting camps on it, or any other turnoffs. It's about 3 or 4 miles till the next intersection. I was about a quarter mile down the road when I see in my rearview mirror another car or truck coming up behind me as I was going up the first hill on the stretch of road. I was about halfway up this hill when they passed me. I was expecting to see them going down the hill or on the short straightway to the next hill, but I didn't see any taillights, so I slowed down thinking they went off the road and crashed. As I was coming down the hill, I was looking for the car/truck that passed me, but I couldn't see much of anything. So I stopped at the bottom of the hill and put my four-ways on. I got out my truck with my flashlight and started to walk up the hill, scanning the side of the road to see if I didn't find anything. I ended up reaching the top of the hill without finding any trace of the vehicle that passed me. So I thought to myself, maybe they then went off the road on the other side of the road, but I still found nothing. No tracks, no skid marks, no evidence of a vehicle going off the road, or even driving on it except for me. Knowing on this road there have been a lot of accidents, so in conclusion to the story, I strongly believe that I saw a ghost car that is stuck in a loop on the night it crashed. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you would like to support the channel, there are a few links in the description, along with a few links to buy my horror novel. I hope you have an amazing day. Until next time, bye bye.